Part 2, baby. Another receiver just went. Did you see that? The run on receivers continues.
Who?
The Biletnikoff Award winner just going from Pitt to USC for a big NIL deal, according to reports.
You know what pisses me off about like people are making? I saw a guy acting like it's a big deal, like SC stole him on that. Like to me, I understand the Oklahoma people thinking he's stealing their players, whether it's fair game or not. Now I get it. You just lost your quarterback to the NFL draft, and you are Pitt. You're not Michigan, Oklahoma, or Georgia. I'm sorry, Pitt. You don't get to bitch and moan when a wide receiver who loses his quarterback wants to go play with Caleb Williams. I defend that one more
and for Lincoln Riley.
Yeah, to me it's a double, but it's like they have a established quarterback coming. Right? To me, if Lincoln like didn't have a quarterback yet, I'd be like, yeah, it's a little shady, but like he gets to play with Caleb Williams. His quarterback was just drafted.
I know. The story, remember last year was, their coach Narduzzi, I heard him say a couple months ago, like Notre Dame tried to steal him, but he stayed.
Who is this?
Dirty recruiting.
So there are a lot of people have been trying to steal this kid, probably.
No. Right? Notre Dame tried to steal Kenny Pickett last year.
Well, don't you think a school like Pitt, like the mid-tier Power 5, the moment they get someone who's like, God, this guy might be a legit NFL player, people are fucking circling like buzzards.
Yep.
How many texts has this kid gotten from like the top 15 programs
for months?
Communications
and DMs from boosters,
like Clemson, Alabama, Georgia. Like who hasn't that matters? Ohio State been all over this guy.
If you're watching us, this is part 2. Part 1 is up. The timestamps are already in part 1. If you want to go back and watch part 1 of Friday night, there's also the Thursday night, which is a monster pod. We have a separate video up breaking down the early scouting reports we got on Drake Jackson. We'll have more on that later in the weekend. That video's out, but there's timestamps and some of the other Debo conversation in the last thing. And now this is part 2. What just got your attention?
Just Roseman. I mean, he's just having he ended up at the first round with Jordan Davis, A.J. Brown. His center had to be convinced to return. Now, granted, he's a Hall of Fame level player with a keg of beer. He drafts a sweet center in the second round who's just going to replace Jason Kelce whenever he retires. And because Nakobe Dean, now I had a guy tell me that, like, he's really beat up. Like you had mentioned that stuff. I think a lot of the physical stuff, and he's just small. So the natural wear and tear when you hit people that hard in that conference has got to be just
right. So he's had a shoulder surgery, and now I have not seen I don't know if he needs surgery on the pec, but there was a pec issue in the pre-draft workout.
I've heard that I don't think the Eagles were that uncomfortable with this physical. Now I know some teams did or were. I think it's an easy one. If you don't need linebackers, you go, yeah, he's beat up. If you do, you kind of are a little more interested. Remember the kid that went to they just showed the video with Rich Eisen, the Eagles fan. They had the podcast.
Yeah,
they brought up on the combine. One thing he told Howie Roseman, he demanded that he drafted the linebackers. They got 2 of the best players from the best defense of all time.
I mean, they got 3 blue. They got blue chip. They get blue chippers. He gets blue chippers.
Pretty good.
You were there. He like, I mean, I guess everyone in theory prefers.
They pivoted back to that. I think they got away from it and they tried to get cute with the Ortega-Whitesides, the Jalen Reagors. They had a big staff meeting after the draft that didn't go that well. Even though it netted them Jalen Hurts, but the Jalen Reagor thing over Justin Jefferson, I think, really rattled them. They said, we got to get back to our roots. So what do they do the next year? They take Devontae Smith and Landon Dickerson. I think one thing the Bengals, they've sneaky been better than you think the last couple decades, right? Post Carson Palmer, they tend to just draft like the SEC and the Big 12. You know, like kids from Oklahoma and Alabama and Georgia and Florida. And it's like, you know, you're going to miss on draft picks no matter what, but aren't more often. That's why I like the 49ers pick. Just now, I know SC's been down, but like that kid was a legitimate recruit, right?
Right. He would go to Lincoln Riley's. Like if Lincoln Riley gets SC rolling again, Drake Jackson would go to Lincoln Riley's new reformed, rebooted USC.
Well, like if Drake Jackson, instead of growing up in Los Angeles, had grown up in Dallas, Texas, he's probably at Oklahoma or Texas A&M,
maybe in Texas.
Yeah. If he'd grown up in Georgia, he's in the SEC. So That's, I think, the pushback on Bill sometimes. It's like, Bill, what? You took this guy from Chattanooga Western State? But Bill kind of gets off on that. It's not even debatable anymore, right? Like he kind of has he's inclined, if it's all else equal, he'll take the guy from the smaller school.
Yeah. 85 is the Patriots selection. Is that
Bono?
No. Steve Young's old neighbor when he was a student? Yeah. Donnie Osmond. Steve Young went on a date with his sister. Or some kind of, was it a date, kind of a setup thing?
Wasn't her, was it her parents that looked out after him, or was that the neighbor?
It was the neighbors. I think it was the neighbors who looked after Steve. Donnie Osmond, yeah. Marie Osmond, right?
Marie Osmond. Probably pretty good looking back in 83.
So the we're a few picks away. We thought from the Raiders, and then the Raiders traded.
They did?
To the Titans. The Titans now have pick 86. The Raiders have pick 90. So the Raiders went back from 86 to 90. And the Titans are now on the clock where the Raiders were going to be.
I feel like Ziegler, I guess, is their first pick. Hard to say.
What are you going to say?
Yeah,
doing Patriot
I was going to say something, but it's not even true. You don't. There's zero track record. I mean, this is his first ever draft pick. Actually, I think what I was going to say is the Titans. Doesn't it feel like they've been moving all over the place? Just like, look up the Titans. The Titans have traded back. Titans.
Yep.
He's kind of on one right now. Do you think Vrabel was rattled because it's just a hard decision? Like he understands, like he's a coach, it's his best player, one of his best players. And
we had to do it, but we just traded A.J. Brown.
And he's 24 years old.
Yeah. Yes, I thought that's what I thought.
These are tough decisions. I don't feel good. And when he kind of shot back at Paul, because I think he said at either the owners' meeting as the combine, like, you don't trade guys like A.J. Brown. Kind of like, you read my words back to me. I meant when I fucking said that. We don't want to do this.
I wasn't lying to you.
Yeah, I don't want to trade this guy, fellas. But this is the business.
Did you see any? Desmond Ridder got drafted by the Falcons while we were intermission.
Malik Willis dropping like a rock.
Yeah.
Or is he just, this is where he probably should go, like the fourth round? I mean, Dak Prescott Russell Wilson went in the third round. I'm sorry, Malik Willis. It's okay to go in the other rounds beside the top 15 picks. I'm so tired of how is this? I don't know. Did you watch him play? He was awful. Well, Josh Allen was 6'5.5", could throw the ball out of a stadium and was fast. I don't really think they're that comparable. Malik Willis is 6 feet tall.
Maybe the Titans will draft him.
Well, Richard's tweeting about it. He's pissed off.
Don't they need another quarterback eventually? I mean, Tannehill's expensive, but he's not elite. He's good, but he's not elite.
What are the chances that Malik Willis is ever close to as good as
Ryan Tannehill?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, not good. But I'm just saying, you've got to get. What are you going to do? Are you going to sign Ryan Tannehill to another contract when this contract's done? Are you going to keep paying him when you can get out of it? I don't think you when can the Titans get out of this Ryan Tannehill? Because he's good, but quarterbacks reach a point where it's just like he's not good enough for the money we got to pay him.
Do you think you want to rattle his cage a little bit after his 3-interception playoff game?
So after this year, his dead cap hit goes from $57 million to 18.8. You wouldn't want him at 18.8, but what if you go $9 million dead cap in 2024? Jesus. But what if you just go, you know what? We'll take a quarterback. We'll develop him behind Ryan for a couple of years. We're not getting out of this Ryan deal. At least, I mean, we could do it in 2023 if we had to after this year. One thing they know.
Maybe that's the pick here. Honestly,
right?
Kind of.
Would you agree? Do you agree with this or do you not agree with this? They can't win a chance. They're not going to the Super Bowl with Ryan Tannehill.
They were the number one overall seed, and they beat a lot of teams this year.
But being the one seed and going to the Super Bowl aren't necessarily the same thing. You got to win in the playoffs to go to the Super Bowl.
No, I know, but I bet they felt like they had a pretty good chance this year. Mets just threw a no-hitter.
One pitcher?
Doesn't look like the starter, but
then I don't care. I don't care about team no-hitters.
Well, Guy, we're in the team no-hitter era.
Well, I don't care about team no-hitters. They're stupid.
Well,
Real no-hitters are cool.
That's what Chris Russo is telling you. Nobody cares. Hey,
5
Steve
pitchers,
Phillips.
Jason Neal. 5 pitchers that nobody knows who they are.
Well, guy, this is why baseball can't get a rating, according to Chris
Russo. You have devalued. Here's the thing. I would want Titans are picking right now. I'm not going to go on a baseball rant.
You know
right
who they pick? Malik Willis. I looked at Twitter.
So there you go. Right?
Not a good move.
Not a bad pick.
Takes a little heat off to AJ Brown. Focus on Malik.
Is that guy? That guy's supposed to be on stage right there.
I
I think if you're going to be a quarterback in the 3rd round, good situation for you, because if you go to a bad team in the 3rd round and you might have to play right away, like who was the guy the Raiders took out of Arkansas in the 4th round? Tyler Wilson.
Tyler Wilson.
Tyler Wilson. Who was the Raiders quarterback when they took him? It wasn't Derek. Was it?
I honestly don't even remember.
Was it Derek?
Doesn't feel like it.
I was about to. My point is going to be, and now we'll see if I'll look it up. But
Connor Cook was drafted with Derek.
Tyler, what year was Derek drafted?
14.
Okay, yeah. So they took this guy in 13. Perfect example. If Tyler Wilson is drafted after Derek Carr is already the established quarterback for the Raiders, he might be on the Raiders for 3 years.
For sure. He doesn't get run out fast.
He's a 4th rounder, and you are not. If we think you can't be our starter and we took you, maybe you are gone. This guy, if he goes as a 3rd rounder where they don't owe you anything, they're not tied to you like they are a 1st rounder. If he goes to a bad team that thinks he's going to be their quarterback and after 1 year he's not, this guy's not going to have to play for 2 years. This is a good start to the career for Malik Willis.
Tyler Wilson did not make the opening day roster.
Well, he got cut before the season. You don't remember that?
No.
Or were you here? Were you here that year?
Yeah, you were. Was. Yeah.
It was crazy.
Yeah, he was terrible.
But that's my point. Is like Davis Mills, is unique because he is a 1st round talent. Now, but as a 3rd rounder, they can change their mind on Davis Mills if they want to, whenever they want.
Yeah,
doesn't matter. We'll just pivot. And I don't. Everyone's always clapping for every pick. I don't know. I mean, if he's a good guy and he's talented, let's give it 2 years and see what we got. But Tannehill's 35. That's the other thing.
35?
34.
Sure?
34.
It felt like he was like 30.
Oh, well, okay. Sorry. 33 in 284 days. So he's going to be 34 this season.
Okay. He's a little older than I thought.
Will says Malik Willis mocked 2nd 2 overall. Now he's a 3rd rounder.
I'd say the mocks were a little off. To update you on the Mets, was it a 1-person no-hitter guy? It was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 people through the no-hitter. 5. The starter made it through 5 innings.
Well, good for those guys. That's cool for them. It's not news, and I don't care. And if I were a Major League Baseball, if I owned a baseball team, I would want the smartest guys running my team. And if the smartest guys told me, and there's logic here, if the smartest guys told me, guy, it doesn't make sense for us to spend $250 million on a guy to pitch 30 times when we could literally spend like $20 million on a bunch of guys who we could just use 5 of them in a game and hitters won't know what to do with them because they won't ever batting average go up the 2nd time through and the 3rd time through. And it doesn't make sense. You just throw a bunch of guys, lower level pitchers, only seen once. It's going to be better. Trust me. And I go, you know what? Great. The problem is it's not good for your sport. People want to watch stars. And the biggest stars in the history of the game are home run hitters and starting pitchers. And I think you could argue the biggest badasses in the history of the game are starting pitchers. Randy Johnson and Pedro Martinez and all the Braves.
Nolan Ryan
and Bob Gibson and Sandy Koufax and on and on and on and on and on. Madison Bumgarner with a
Roger Clemens. I mean,
Madison Bumgarner with a 4.1 ERA was must-see TV every 5th day in San Francisco. And that's not worth $35 million a year. I get it. I'm not saying it's good business. But I am saying there's a disconnect between what's best for the sport, which is, you know who's pitching? Oh, it's Tim Lincecum pitching tonight. That's all I need to know.
Well, it used to matter. It no longer does.
Here's the other thing. Lincecum pitched Sunday. I watched that game, so I know that, probably Friday the next week he's pitching, right? Or Saturday the next week he's pitching, so I just know I'm going to get Lincecum. When does Lincecum pitch? That's all. That's guaranteed eyeballs.
Do you know what you just made me think of? The greatest disconnect between the entertainment, which is ultimately the fan, and what's good for the team and the front office right now is clearly baseball. Basketball is clearly second, because if they could, they would rest their stars 25 games. They would just shoot fucking uncontrollable amount of threes. They would do these fouls. Wouldn't you say the greatest connection of like the owner, the GM, the coach, the stars, the fans, like all kind of on the same page? Like throw the ball nonstop to Devante Adams, feed him the rock.
Well, here's the great example with football right now. What the fans want is now analytically great. Go for it on fourth downs everywhere.
Yeah.
Go for 2. Sweet.
Throw it a lot.
Throw it all the time. All right.
What's the best play on defense? Sack the quarterback.
Blitz.
Yeah, get after the quarterback. And then even when they go for it, which is very advantageous to the consumer, it still is controversial. So it's like, God, no, you should have kicked. Even though everyone kind of wants you to go for it.
Why'd you run it?
Yeah, why'd you run that play? Right? Remember Kyle went back to the well on the Trent Williams play. And people were like, why are you going back to the well? Well, I don't know, because he just knocked that guy 75 yards back on the last time.
If he hadn't got caught up, it would have worked.
Did he trip, or did he run into somebody?
I don't know. Somebody knocked him off his spot. I don't even remember. All right, what's going on right now, John?
Look who's coming out to announce for the Bills. He's not fat, is he? That's a fake belly.
I think the shirt's just tucked in really tight. I don't think he's fat. I bet if you saw him, I bet he looks.
Why does he like the Bills so much?
Is he a Bills fan?
I thought he's from like Los Angeles.
He just knows.
I think he yeah.
Bills Mafia is Niners have a big fan base and, whatever, but
he lives back there now in New York. It's not that far away.
Zubaz pants, isn't that what those things are called? All right, so Bills are on the clock at 89. Raiders are up next at 90.
This is one of your rare, I'd say, media hires who wasn't necessarily a sports guy, but he's a former football player in college. Big personality.
He was on Rome's show forever, right?
Yeah. So he has sports background, but like he's just gone all in on the NFL. Whenever I see him, it's clearly he kind of knows what he's talking about. Not like breaking down the scheme, but like his passion for football.
Yeah.
I think it works.
Yeah. Kyle Brandt is who we're talking about. By the way, we're watching NFL Network's coverage if you want to see the same thing we're seeing.
I think he's good. I really enjoy him. I don't watch like
I do too. I do too. I do too.
I just think he's one, and usually that guy, it's hard to pull off his role, and I think he does it pretty seamlessly.
The name came up on the screen before he announced it. You just ate a piece of chicken.
Did he bring out the toothpick with a piece of chicken on it?
Is he trying to be a WWE? Like, what is he? That was pretty good.
You think Roger likes him? Probably a lot, right?
Because he does have great energy. Yeah, he's got great energy.
Is that Rob Lowe? No, that's Osmond.
That's Donnie Osmond. What did you see the Desmond Ridder pick? His girlfriend was like on his right arm. If you see the video, she leans over. She's like, it's something like, I'm so proud of you, baby. And he's just like looking at the screen like, yeah, okay. Then she like leans, tries to get to like, it looked to me like she was trying to get to a kiss, but he didn't lean back this way. So she just kind of like put her head on his shoulder. It was, I need to check the tape again, but.
You think Sean McDermott's amused?
That's his amused face, right? All right, Raiders.
I feel like these draft rooms are getting bigger.
Well, it's one of the coolest things you have, right?
But do they feel a lot more?
Well, didn't it used to be that like the scouts were not necessarily in that, like in the old days?
I just don't think there was that much room, too. I mean, you didn't have that many rooms that could accommodate. Some of these rooms now look massive. Yeah, they showed the Broncos. It looked like a movie theater. I mean, it was enormous.
Which offensive lineman are the Raiders picking here, you think? If we're going full Patriots MO.
R.I.P. Daryl Monica.
Kyle Brandt, 0306 Days of Our Lives.
You guys are a solid 4 minutes ahead.
That's not possible.
I think if anything, we'd be behind.
Were people talking about Ritter's girlfriend on the internet?
As good looking, or
well, just that situation.
I love that Derek Papa always tells me like he's not a Raider fan anymore. Bullshit. The Papa family, they didn't shake that in their blood. Hell, even his dad, might be wearing Niner fans, but he's still got a Raider tattoo on his leg. If I told you Greg Papa had a Raider tattoo somewhere on his body, is that believable? I mean, honestly, would it be the craziest thing you've ever heard if I just said he's got a little Raider emblem like on his upper thigh?
It would not. It'd be like, Greg and Lisa Guerrero got matching Raiders tattoos or something.
Yeah, to me, but to me, it would be as simple as like, after a 2000 playoff win, Gruden's second year, booze was flowing, spirits were high.
Marcus Allen, Wayne Newton. Wayne Newton just sold a big house. Kind of.
You think Wayne Newton's got any work done? You think he colors his hair?
What was that? What's going on here?
Oh my God.
What's the age?
I would guess.
He's born during World War II.
He's old.
Who do they select, Wayne? What? He wants Marcus to do it?
I wonder is he sober? Is he on drugs? Or
maybe he didn't know how to say the name. So they went guard.
Memphis. He's in Mississippi. He's from Memphis.
In his defense, he looked away, wasn't reading it. He's 80, John. He looks fantastic. Look at him.
I mean, he's got a lot of work done. Again, I don't hate on work getting done, but he can't move his face.
He is a legend.
He's a legend.
Imagine that, like the things that man has seen.
Would you say he's one of the most anonymous people?
Haberman and Middlekauff would be judging his Botox on the internet.
It's not fair.
He'd be like, the who and the fuck and the where?
Forget. You say he's the most anonymous person with Vegas, like
I would say. Yeah, I mean, probably more so than even like Sinatra. Yeah,
I feel like Sinatra was a later ad, though.
Yeah, he's number one. I mean, you could, the chat is. I know he said the wrong college.
Over under Wayne Newton marriages 2.5. What are you taking?
Over.
Yeah.
The chat wanted him on. I mean, I think a lot of guards probably is. We talked about this last night, but if you don't have a problem with the Niners drafting a guard, right? Like it's better. This is what I gave Howie Roseman credit for. If you looked at it after a year and went, I think we got it wrong. What do? Do you chase a loss or do you pick another guard? Maybe they go safety. 49ers.
I think you could argue when you're good, you just take the best player on your board.
BPA.
I mean, is it crazy to take the UCLA tight end here? He can run.
He got drafted while you were eating.
He did?
Broncos.
Seriously?
Greg Dulcich. Yep.
So they replaced Noah Fant with that guy? It's pretty good. Little
it's pretty good. It is pretty good.
The Broncos, I mean, we're going to find out if the guy can coach. They're a pretty well-run organization.
I agree. They do feel that way.
Just like they mix and they match. They lose a guy, they plug. It's just, honestly, the Falcons feel like, they just kind of got it together, Like the Lions. I have no faith that the Lions, like they're just kind of, Aiden Hutchinson, let's just take him. Jameson Williams, he's sweet. Like what? You have Jared Goff. What are you guys doing? Jameson, in fairness, they didn't trade up, they traded up from 32 to 12. It didn't cost them that much. If I was the Lions, I would have taken like Jordan Davis. I would have just taken something that I can't fuck up. Jameson Williams. You see Jameson Williams' quote today? They asked him at the press conference. They're like, what do you know about the Lions? He's like, not much. That was his end of his quote.
What is he, like Amari Cooper 2.0?
I just bet it's like you're Jameson Williams, Ohio State,
Alabama.
And Ohio State, and you end up at Lions?
Yeah.
That sucks. Could you demand you refuse to sign at pick 13, or is that too far down?
I mean, you could, right? What are they going to do? Trade you?
I feel bad for him.
You know what you would do? if you were them and he did that and like he really did it, you would find somebody who drafted behind you who liked Jameson Williams more than the guy they got, but they couldn't get him. Oh, did you see that comment?
Does Mike McCarthy look like
What's
he's
the
getting
guy's
a lot
name?
bigger?
Tyler Smith or something like that?
Yeah, it was a first round.
Cowboys O-lineman.
Does Mike look like he's getting bigger? Does he look a lot bigger to you, or has he always been this girthy? I know he's big, but he feels really big.
Great question.
Right next to the lineman. Honestly, did they look that different in size? I'm pretty sure the comment is actually assholes. I've heard like coaches use it before.
Yeah.
But the butthole
It's a popular comment, but to say butthole is fine. So sorry, I interrupt. Tell people what happened.
They basically asked him because I think a lot of people were saying that the Cowboys overdrafted him. Jerry, this morning or last night, I guess it would have been last night, probably on the post-draft press conference because the kid wouldn't have been there, pulled out the draft board because everyone was asking him if they drafted a guy that they didn't even have as high on the board, and Jerry's showing him the board and Steven's hitting his hand, like, put the paper down, right? Jerry's showing the board. We had this guy ranked high because no one believed him. I mean, it was a little out of left field. So then today they're clearly asking the kid, like, I'm sure you've seen on social media, like, you're not good enough to get drafted here. And he basically just said he doesn't listen to the media because opinions are like buttholes. Everyone has one. It was an all-time Mike McCarthy. Mike couldn't hold in his laughter because it was the kid was very.
It was an innocent it was very innocent.
Yeah, and he was
natural.
not like trying to be aggressive or anything.
He wasn't trying to make a joke even. He just kind of, I think his joke snuck up on him.
And I think it really snuck up on Mike just how funny. He just said the word butthole. And then they pan out and Jerry's sitting right next to the kid.
Rashad White out of ASU goes to the Bucks. They like that pick. Hey, Greg on the stream, thanks for telling people. If you're here, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel. It's growing. We appreciate you helping us do that. When you like it, algorithm, the algo throws it out to more people, and then it gets more people, and it just feeds on itself like a flesh-eating bacteria. So we appreciate that.
You know this guy? Who's this running back?
Good player. Runs hard.
The Arizona State had a third-round running back?
And they had another guy that transferred to Ohio State to play like linebacker, change positions.
Part
one got a like. Yeah, we'll give part two a like. God damn it.
Where's Jaden Daniels now?
Sorry?
Where's Jaden Daniels? Where'd he go again? Forgot.
LSU to go compete with Nussmeier.
He ain't winning that job, is he?
Well, apparently the reports I read from the spring game were that no one's really that good right now. I think he might, but
Jaden might beat out Nussmeier.
Jaden might beat out Nussmeier. Packers are on the clock. Meanwhile, take a look at John. Take a look at the introductory. I saw Lombardi tweeted this. The introductory press conference for Drake Jackson. Take a look at his chain.
Is that Candlestick or the Coliseum?
It's the Coliseum. That's his chain.
Oh my God.
That's an incredible chain. Niners are on the clock. All right. Packers take a tackle, Sean Ryan. So it's Sean Ryan against Nick Bosa. Here you go.
Well, the 49ers wouldn't have taken that guy, right? They already have like 7 tackles.
No.
Who do you think the Niners go with? Matt Corral?
You know, it crossed my mind. They might do that at 105, but I think here they got to go lineman or safety. Feels like offensive, like interior offensive lineman or safety. Although I guess Sean Ryan could have played guard, maybe. So maybe they were going to, I mean, they didn't move up. See, that's the thing. If they really wanted Sean Ryan, I guess they have 105. They could have moved up a couple spots, right?
Chips, putting some guys in the league right now.
Well, Colton Miller, remember, was the guy after McGlinchey. And Sean Ryan, I think people think can play some guard.
What do we got going on here? Is this George? Or is that McGruber?
This is Dr. Disrespect, man. Video game streamer who probably does like 8 million streams.
Everyone at their house right now is making fun of this guy. And if they saw his his income statement or what he just paid in taxes, do you think they'd be blown away?
I did a running back. Running back.
Is that a bad sign for Trey Sermon?
Yes, it's a bad sign for Trey Sermon. Now you could also argue the 49ers you always need them.
Well, really quick, I want to look up the streamer before I forget. What was his name?
Dr. Disrespect.
What would you guess on subscribers?
I mean, I'll go like 2.3 million.
3.9.
3.9. Yeah. I did we'll get to the pick here in a second, but let's talk about the pick and then.
Well, I don't know that much about him.
All right, I'll tell you something real quick. So, buddy of mine from college, Brian Lappin, asked me if I could there's a career day at Wawona Middle School via Zoom in Fresno today. He asked me if I could do it. I said, sure. So I jump on. There's 115 seventh graders, and it's a scene. All right. Teachers, you guys, shout out to the teachers. They don't get paid enough.
But it was
Zoom?
a good time. They're all on Zoom at home?
Zoom.
Or they're at class?
Like some are in school. They're on Zoom. I didn't quite get the details. But they, talking to all kinds of people who have real jobs, and they're talking to me. Real job, just kidding. And they're like, one kid's like, have you ever worked with anybody famous like Jake Paul? That was his question.
Dead serious, too.
100%. All right.
Again, you and I think, understand this, and honestly, probably learned this over the last couple of years. I wouldn't have like 4 years ago. I don't think the average person, probably our age to maybe even the next 5 years, from like 35 to 45, can quite grasp how famous Jake Paul probably is, right?
Right.
Like Jake Paul, like with people under 20, how famous he is. Like he's every bit as famous, wouldn't you say, as like, I mean, any athlete or a lot of singers. Like his fame is massive.
So Kyle goes running back.
I put out some feelers.
Is it Tyrion? Is that how you say his name? Tyrion Davis Price. I didn't hear Dr. Disrespect's announcement.
I'm
assuming he nailed the pick.
I have so many videos of like coaches hugging each other. I've seen so many hugs in the last couple of days on Twitter. You want to do it? I just initial thoughts before we even have just immediate takeaway on this kid, on his drafting.
Yeah.
I just had a thought come to my head.
Okay.
2 years in a row drafting a running back in the third round. Is that like
good business?
It seems a little crazy. Seems a little. I mean, they've drafted 3 running backs, guy, in the last 5 draft picks they've had. I know it doesn't really carry over. It's not really how it works. But if you think about it that way, isn't that pretty nuts? Like Trey Sermon, do they just think he sucks and are just completely out on him, and they know that the way they play, they have to have other running backs, which is fair. I just asked someone, their first response was Rich. I mean, it's usually an LSU, Alabama running back, right? I would say anyone in an SEC big-time program you have a feel for. I didn't know much about this guy.
You're saying the response you got was like, this is too high to draft him when you say Rich.
Yes.
That's what you're saying. Yeah, 6'2", 211, 4.48 40. Scored 6 touchdowns as a true freshman on the national title team in 2019. I mean, things got a little messy for them last year. Just looking at him, doesn't seem like he's carried the ball with an excessive amount. Someone asked Trey Sermon 3.0. People worried about Elijah.
What about you want 19 to not feel like he has to do that, right? Part of it was like Elijah was getting beat up. Trey Sermon was 0.
It's a great point, right? Maybe you're telling Debo, and part of this pick is like a light version of trading for Hollywood Brown. If you're the Cardinals, like, Debo, look, we are making an effort. Our plan is not going to be to do that with you. That was break in case of emergency, break glass in case of emergency. We didn't want to use you like that, but we had to. So we did it, but we agree this is not the way we want to use you. But I think
it is good business in their scheme to have about 4 running backs on the roster, right?
Yeah, I don't think it's that crazy if they contribute, and you just kind of every couple of years cycle through, every 3-4 years cycle through third-round running backs because you run them into the ground, but you also want a certain talent level, although you got Elijah Mitchell later than that last year, and he was immediately a fit for you. But the problem is you can't just have Trey Sermons, right? You need some production. If Trey Sermon was a productive player for them last year, well, they wouldn't be doing this, would they?
I would doubt it. But
Unless they were concerned about Elijah Mitchell.
I would imagine that. Well, I just think that it's a lot to ask Elijah Mitchell to be
1,000%. I agree.
They would like to have him be a co-starter, right? I think ideally they would like 2 guys. Now, Trey Sermon, huge recruit, right? Oklahoma, Ohio State, big time. This guy went to LSU. I mean, and when they were really good. This guy had offers from Alabama, Arkansas, Auburn. I mean, he's played at LSU. I mean, I have no problem taking guys from big programs, though. One thing is with running backs, probably a little less important than it is like D linemen. Like you're not going to find that many Drake Jacksons at Fresno State. You can find running backs at a lot of programs, so that doesn't necessarily determine anything once you get past like the first round, right? We see good running backs. I mean, Elijah Mitchell was Louisiana. Lafayette.
Yeah.
Because I would have thought last year, we all thought Trey Sermon, I don't know if he's going to start, but he's going to play a bunch, and then he could barely get on the field.
Yeah.
Well, why do we think that, right? Because he was a big school.
Well, he was a guy that had an injury at Ohio State, right? And then he got hurt with the 49ers. So, I mean, if that was one of your fears, it came true. Now, whether or not he stayed off the field fully because of injury, I mean, no, partly was he wasn't productive. But, I mean, look, if this guy is getting 8 carries a game, 6 carries a game, no one's thinking twice about it, right? If he is taking some of the carries from Elijah Mitchell, which we said last year when you take a guy in the 3rd round, you'd want him to be taking carries. They didn't. So chase that L or try and make up for that mistake, if you want to call it that. Not that you're totally giving up on Trey Sermon, but I think part of it was even watching him run, you're like, does this guy fit this team? Right? That was part of it with Trey Sermon. You agree with that?
Yeah, he doesn't. Elijah Mitchell, immediate fit.
It's style. Elijah Mitchell, we watched the tape. He hadn't even played a game for the Niners. We watched the tape. We went, holy smokes. This guy works.
This guy's big, though, guy. I mean, this guy, to me, I think is more of a Trey Sermon body type.
Yeah, 6 foot 219. Again, ran a 4.48. 5 yards per carry.
Don Aponte.
Mitchell said he's bulking up to 215. I hate this pick, says that guy. Okay, so we'll get more intel on that and talk more about that. The other thing we got to react to here is the Panthers took Matt Corral. So where the hell is Jimmy going? Do the Panthers taking Matt Corral mean you couldn't do and I don't know if the Panthers for 1 second or the Niners for 1 second entertain the Sam Darnold for Jimmy Garoppolo swap? They may not. But Matt Corral can be somebody's backup. He could be Jimmy's backup for a year or two. Clearly, that's what the Titans are doing, right?
Don't a lot of 3rd-round picks end up as backups?
Yeah, yes. The question is, how do you get Jimmy on that team if Sam Darnold's still there?
One problem is,
or Baker for that matter,
they get the spring because Jimmy can't throw no matter what. So if they're going to wait till the summer to do the deal, what if they end up liking Matt Corral a lot in the spring and they think he could be the starter? Now, it's a lot. There'd be a lot going on, but
the other thing they could just think is we like him enough that he could be the starter in 23. Everyone can take a deep breath. Let's just roll with Sam.
Yeah.
You're saying they would hit the offseason, hit this summer with the expectation they would trade for Jimmy.
Well, what if they don't do a trade and there's no trade that goes down till the summer and Ben McAdoo gets to work with Sam Darnold in the spring, kind of likes him and tries to convince the owner and the head coach, like, redshirt this guy. I can work with this kid. I like this kid coming out. Me and Sam are vibing. I think I could help him out. That's one problem. I would say a deal probably has to happen before these OTAs start, because if it doesn't happen before the OTA start, you're just kind of
hoping somebody gets hurt.
No, or like, what if it goes well? Like, what if just Sam and Ben McAdoo hit it off
what I mean is that then goes away. And who's left? You're just hoping somebody else gets hurt somewhere.
I don't see a Jimmy destination. Do you just keep him and just see if have a true quarterback competition, or do you just start Trey and tell him he's the backup?
I don't think you have a true quarterback competition. If you keep him, he is Jimmy. Trey is the starting quarterback of this team. Now, would Kyle stick to that if the Niners are 2-3?
Isn't that kind of weird for the locker room too? All these guys know Jimmy. They're all boys with Jimmy. It's a bizarre situation.
Somehow the Niners, the Niners of George Seifert and Bill Walsh figured it out, John. But
what if then Trey kind of sucks and Jimmy's still around?
Is that terrible? I mean, I know that's not ideal, but on the flip side, you can go, well, if you're 1-3 and Trey's not good, what's better?
We all know they ain't getting to 1-3 if Trey Lance. They'd be 1-1 and be like, Jimmy. I could see them just going quick, like back and forth. Haberman, where'd he go? He gone. Is he coming back? I don't know. I can hear him.
Yeah, you can hear me?
Yeah.
I kicked my camera cord, and it's like the most sensitive cord.
Trying to plug it back in.
Yeah, I'm just let's see if it pops back up for me. But if not, I'll be that one guy on Zoom who never shows his face.
I always think that is just
chicken shit, John.
I just wouldn't allow it in my company culture.
I'm gonna pop away for a second, but I'll be right back.
Cool. Let's answer some questions. Hit me. Why would he take less? Why? Agree. Guys, we don't need corners. We have Kinlaw, Drake Jackson. In all seriousness, though, the defensive line could just dominate. If Kinlaw can come back and just be solid, Drake Jackson, Bosa, Armstead's big ass, start kicking ass, taking names. You got Kerry Hyder back in the mix. Niners D-line is going to be sweet. Their linebackers are sweet. DBs, Jimmy Ward's good. A lot of other question marks. Why can't we just drop Jimmy? I like this view. Is this a still picture? Oh. Ambry Thomas did have a huge how do you block people?
Oh.
Horn bots.
You just hit the 3 little dots by their name, and then you can hit block.
Relieved of my duties, contract not renewed. And then
Andy left. That was part of it.
Fired.
Andy was fired. Yeah. You were part of the Andy Reid purge. You were an Andy Reid guy. They just couldn't have you in the building anymore.
Yeah, me, Doug. Doug's been fired there multiple times.
Somebody said, was that the shave it or save it view?
I remember, and Twitter wasn't that big. I remember thinking, I'd rather scroll Twitter than watch 6th-round pick.
You mean when you were working for the team?
It was just boring watching that much tape. I don't know how these guys do it. It really bored me. You don't need to shave it. I don't think people quite realize how many hours of tape all these scouts watched of all these players. It's an unhealthy amount. What else do you do? Do you send invoices? No, I just watch tape.
So if I told you you're watching Davis Price, the 49ers running back at LSU, you watched every snap that he had in college, right?
Well, no, but you would end up indirectly probably because they have so many prospects. You've watched so much LSU. You watch so much SEC. You spend so much time asking about these people. I remember when I got out of it, and I remember that first year going on CSN or whatever and talking about the players. I knew the players I could give a scouting report of my little brother. It was incredible how much information you had.
You're like a superhuman.
It's why even when you hear DJ now, he's like, I'm on the phone. Because you have to accumulate that information to tell your scouting buddies to tell you it all about you.
Yeah, yeah.
Romo
that first year, right?
Had it all. It's what does Wink Martindale like to do? Well, we've played him the last 2 years. I know every single situation he has. Well, then 3 years later, the new coordinator starts cycling, right? When Romo and Nance call Chiefs Broncos week 3, how is Romo going to know a lot about that coordinator he brought from the Rams that was a UC Davis guy? It won't be the same, right? Tony's never played against the guy.
Yeah, you just don't. You played against him.
I just remember seeing the books of coordinator information that Andy and the coaches had on like defensive coordinators. Think how much you just accumulate
Like
over the
tendencies
years.
and stuff.
Yeah, and just like if I've played a guy for 6 straight years, it's no different, like when a coach loves a player because like this guy's been kicking our ass for 3 years. Well, it's like, why did I love this coach? Because I love the scheme he ran against me, and I thought he couldn't break it. Then we played him again, and he got me. And then I hired him when I had the shot. It's why sometimes in coaching,
me, the part of that is like the amount of. It's one thing when you're preparing for something to grind on it. I think that's easier to do than after you've had the competition or done whatever it is that you're going to do. To go back and then write down all the things you learned from that experience takes a lot more discipline.
Do you think that's an elite trait of people?
Yeah, I just think it's an incredibly disciplined trait, right? So, like, it's one thing to watch all the film to get ready for Sunday because your ass is going to be out there on the field, and if you don't prepare, you are naked. But if you don't then Sunday night after the game or Monday write down all the Wink Martindale tendencies, you're like, well, I'll prepare for Wink next time. I'll remember what I saw, right? I think that happens a lot. Like I won't forget it.
Well, you notice wouldn't you say the guy that's most consistently when he's on television taking little notes is Belichick over the years? Something happens in the game, he's got the little thing. I think a lot of that is for the next day. Saw something, we need to do this. But here's my thing of just if you're a head coach and you have to reiterate it, but if you're just you, me, whoever, and you have an idea or something happens, and I keep some stuff in my phone, right? It's notes. But when do I ever reread the notes? That's my thing. When do people reread notes? That's always a question. So I accumulate these notes. What happened? When do you reread them?
That's a good question.
How often? When's the last time you reread notes?
No, let's see what's in here.
Project.
All right, here's a story for you. Here's a note I haven't read in a while. A story. I won't tell you who told me the story. I'll tell you, but I'll leave this person's name out of it because they're currently doing their thing. But they had a story from a guy named Dave Soup Campbell. Dave Soup Campbell. Dave, if you're like our age, maybe you remember Dave Soup Campbell used to be like on ESPN doing baseball games all the time. Former player.
90, like call the games with John Miller?
Before that, like in the 90s. He was a minor league baseball player for the Detroit Tigers. This guy told me the story. I wrote it down. In 1968, the Tigers win the American League. And Al Kaline calls Soup Campbell. He says, Soup, come on up from Toledo, where the minor league team was. Why don't you meet me at the bar? We're celebrating. Come over to this bar. So I met him at the bar, and he said, hey, have you ever met Mickey Mantle? And Soup Campbell said, the Mick? No. And Al Kaline says, come with me. They go to the bathroom. They knock on the door, and Mickey opens it, and he reaches out his hand and shakes Soup Campbell's hand while he's getting a blowjob in the bathroom.
That really happened.
It's a real story. It's told to somebody. It's told to me by the guy who's a famous baseball guy who Soup Campbell told him that story.
Do you think some of these stories are truly happened?
I mean, that's just secondhand story. Like it's.
But there feels like several Mickey Mantle like having sex and like having a conversation. I mean, it just the Mickey Mantle stories feel like they're stuff of legend.
I know. Maybe they're true. Because then you read like the Lakers book I'm listening to on tape, and it's like the stuff in the show is 1/10 of the real stuff that was happening.
It was worse in the book.
It was just real. It was happening. All right, hold on.
Like a lot of sex.
Yeah, just like the Forum Club every night after the game was like if Michael
players
Cooper's wife,
go.
Yes, Michael Cooper's wife did not want him going to the Forum Club without her.
Like if the game ended and she couldn't go to the game, he had to go home.
She'd be like, "Why are you going to the Forum Club?" Be like, just to grab a drink with the fellas. I said the visiting teams would be in the Forum Club so fast. All right, let's get to Patrick here because Patrick gave us $10 and we appreciate that. You two are the goats of Niner contents. Congrats on the success. Go Niners. Thanks, Patrick. We appreciate you. Kirk asked, can centers be drafted whenever? That's a great question. Let's look at
think it depends how good you are. Like if you're a really good player, Alex Mack, Linderbaum this
Alex
year.
Mack, elite athlete too, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think if you're viewed as just a can't miss center, then you can be drafted whenever. You can find, I mean, Jason Kelsey, who's probably be a Hall of Famer, was drafted in the 6th round. So you can find centers that were not necessarily. Rodney Hudson, I think, was a 2nd rounder. Now he was a really good. I think he was at Florida State with Jimbo. Like he was a pretty real NFL prospect. I'd say he's closer to like Mack. Yeah, Rodney Hudson was pick 55. Be closer to Mack and Linderbaum than Jason Kelsey. I think it's like any position. You are, well, you're more likely to find a Pro Bowl center at any round than you are a Pro Bowl pass rusher. Like Max Crosby is a clear outlier in the NFL, right? Like when you just list the names, like all the sweet pass rushers, he's the only guy that's not a 1st rounder.
That's the thing about their draft. Max Crosby was in the infamous, 3-headed monster 1st round where nobody got their 5th-year option picked up, but they got Max Crosby in that draft.
Someone on a tweet, I think to us both, said Renfro too. It's like, well, this draft isn't as terrible when you factor in Max Crosby and Hunter Renfro.
Well, I'd agree with that statement then.
I would agree to a point, but you drafted 3 1st rounders.
I know it's bad value.
Because I think it's like, hey, if I told you before the draft, you're going to hit on a 4th and a 5th round player that are going to be like 8 to 10 year starters for you, you'd be like, are you serious? Then we're going to have like 4 sweet players because we're going to hit at least 2 or 3 of these 1st round picks. I would say that Josh Jacobs would have a chance to not be his last year on the Raiders. Like maybe if it's going really well, they give him like a 2-year, $20 million extension or something like that.
Yeah. I'll tell you who Jonathan Abram ain't covering: Greg Dulcich.
I would say that Jonathan Abram's not a lock to be on the Week 1 roster.
Team.
I could see Cleveland just a D lineman, you need some bodies, but I could see Abram. If you don't like him, you'd want no part of him, right? Just that play style and trying to coach a guy up that doesn't know where he's going. 2019 doesn't feel like Renfro was in the Cleveland Farrell draft.
19? Sorry, I got distracted.
Yeah. He was.
Same draft.
Wow.
What's interesting about the Raiders now is I talked to, I think I told you I talked to Doug Baldwin at the Stanford spring game several weeks ago.
Get his number? Tell him to come on.
I didn't. It was like, I thought we were going to interview him in the booth. He was on a headset down on the field. But I could ask somebody for it. And he was talking about like Devante. And
Where's he live?
I think he's in Washington. I heard this guy, Kyle Phillips, who's a receiver from UCLA, who's waiting to get drafted. And he brought up Devante. Like all these guys bring up Devante. First they bring up Julio, then they bring up Devante. Not saying Devante's the best route runner in the league. Maybe it's Cooper Kupp. But Devante just separates. All these guys watch Devante. And I think a lot of guys watch Hunter Renfro too, just because he's a really good route runner. The Raiders have 2 of the guys that I would say I think most young receivers, or even, like I said, I heard Doug Baldwin say it. I think a lot of receivers watch Devante Adams route running. A lot of them. And they watch Cooper Kupp, I think, is a guy they all watch. Julio is an older guy they watch. But I would bet if you went and talked to all these receivers in the draft and you said, like, I bet all of them, I bet the guy they'd say the most is Devante Adams.
I think one thing, because I think about
watch the clip. Let's see if we get it here. Oh, maybe we're not going to get it. We got a little bit of it there. Sorry.
Watching the highlights of Devante in college.
Keenan Allen too. Yeah, that's a good call.
For the most part, Devante was getting bombs from Derek. I wonder if you were talking to him over beers, you'd be like, the reason you struggled early on is you just didn't quite know what you were doing, because in college you didn't have to necessarily run crisp routes. Mm-hmm. And then he overworked and became an overachiever of, like, with Keith Williams, I'm going to master the art of getting in and out of my breaks, because I know that you could hit me downfield and I can high point the ball in traffic. But if I get open, I'll be unstoppable.
Yeah.
Because now, like, what he's known for is the best release in the NFL. And obviously he can just do it all, because he's not a blazer. Because Keenan was known as like a route runner even in college. Devante, those highlights in college were just like guys all over him just going up over him, right? They were all kind of the same.
He wasn't as wide open as my memory was when I went back and watched the film.
Is that Doug Baldwin?
Is this real? This Desmond Ritter quote I'm reading?
What did he say?
I first found out I was having a baby when my girlfriend told me. Everyone's like, yeah, that's how everyone finds out. This is the coach from St. Peter's. That's who this guy is. Announcing the Jets pick. That's the St. Peter's. Although I think he left St. Peter's to go coach somewhere else.
Well, he's
from Holloway.
Is he from Xavier?
Yeah. Is that where he went?
Yeah.
No, because Sean Miller went to Xavier.
Providence or something?
Maybe Providence.
No, Providence got the one dude with the hair.
Seton Hall.
Seton Hall, yeah. Seton Hall's in New York, too, I think. Ruckert.
Oh, the Ohio State tight end.
I mean, the Jets have given this kid some help this offseason, right? Wide receiver, multiple tight ends. They draft a running back. I mean, I can't make any more excuse for Zach Wilson this year. No catching radius, the worst in the NFL. Like, can we hit some people in the hands? I feel like the Jets are going to have some pressure on them, aren't they? Like, are they going to be a 8-win team? Can you just compete, or are you just going to be 6 and?
Yeah, we're gonna. Well, I think you find out pretty quickly, right? Like we did with the Bengals. Are you going to do like this 3-4 win thing again? You don't have to go to the playoffs, but you're just going to look like you're almost a real football team. Because year 3 is kind of when you put it together, but year 2 is when you show which way you're trending.
But who are they beating? Like, are they beating the Bills at all? No. Can they split with the Patriots? I have a hard time seeing Zach Wilson beat Bill.
I mean,
don't you?
Google. I just typed in Jets schedule and it gave me the Winnipeg Jets. Guys, that's like an 8% hit rate if that's what you're giving people. Not even. All right, hold on. Jets schedule.
Well, it's not out yet. That's probably why you can't.
No, but I mean, we get to see who they like. We know who they play, right?
Yeah, we do know who they play.
So the Jets are going to play. They play at the Browns. They play at the Packers. Here's their road games: Browns, Packers. Could be. Who knows who the Browns quarterback is? Dolphins.
Zonka.
Mercury Morris. Oh, it is Zonka. Vikings and the Vikings.
I don't love these teams you're reading off. Like, are they better than any of these teams?
So far, no. Obviously, the Pats. And obviously the Dolphins. Sorry. Ravens, Bengals, Bears, Lions, Steelers. Okay. Broncos, Jags, Seahawks. I mean, to me, like, threaten 7 wins. Like, Can you get this? Can you be 7-10?
Can you just be like in the wild card conversation around Thanksgiving and then you can fall off?
G says, when we're running down the Jets schedule, I'm out. You son of a bitch. There's 4 rounds left. We haven't even gotten to the good stuff.
We only got 3 more picks.
Channing Tyndall goes, we're waiting on the Niners picking at 105.
Did every single starter for the Georgia Bulldogs get selected on defense?
Well, we've had, 7?
We had, I think, all their D linemen, every single linebacker. This guy who just, I remember watching this guy thinking, geez, this guy's a monster. What are his flaws?
Is he the guy that missed the tackle on the goal line?
Yeah, and Kobe screamed at him, and the next play he made he destroyed Bryce Young. I remember that play thinking like, oh, this guy's probably like a 7th overall pick. That's the play. They have random Marino.
Just what do those two say to each other?
You see how big a chew is in Marino's mouth?
Mike McDaniel and Dan Marino. What do they say to each other? Does Dan say, remember the time I was a dick to Haberman and Middlecoff on Radio Row at the Super Bowl?
Marino's one of the only guys who's ever been a royal asshole, and it's like I totally appreciate him for it. Like I get it.
He's sitting there talking to us about AARP.
Do you think Marino shows up around draft time and he like played golf this morning, did whatever he does, or has he been kind of in and out all day?
I think
like
he's
talking to players.
I think he's been around. I think he's watched some tape. Remember, Marino took over very briefly, so he wants it a little bit.
He clearly likes it, right? He wouldn't. I mean, it's his Friday night, and he's in there with Mike McDaniel. Would you do that if you were Marino?
What else is he doing? Summer's about to be here. Apparently, we can just go by Ty Davis Pierce for the 49ers, John. Ty Davis Pierce.
Ty Davis Pierce. How are the not? Oh, these are the comp picks.
Big Ten, another Big Ten defender for the Chiefs. They went with Kafardis. Sorry, that's not how you say his name. I didn't mean to do.
Yeah, Kafuski.
I didn't mean to do that. I went.
Do you know who someone described him to me as? A geek from Purdue. I think he's an intelligent guy.
Super smart school, right?
Yeah. Where Ryan Grigson played football. I think Rich pulls off the cul-de-sac pretty well. He always has.
He really does. Because you don't get the sense he's not trying to hold. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, it's not easy to pull off.
The shortcut.
You know, the Girardi guy, Garofolo, I think pulls it off. Okay.
Yep.
You know who has the worst look of all time?
Who
is the fat CNN reporter?
Stelter.
Oh my God! It's
gotta go,
bro. You can't do whatever you're doing.
Gotta go.
And it's so awful. I saw someone on Twitter was like, "Does everyone realize this guy's 36 years old?" I'm like, Jesus, he looks like he's 50. It's a terrible look. That fat and that deal, you just can't. Look at where these guys are.
The pick is in, John.
But I mean, they are at that Malibu house, clearly. That was McVay. The water was in the background. They were drunk last
Can you
night.
tell a draft pick, hey man, we're so thrilled to have you, when your slogan is basically forget this guy? Niners got to go. I shouldn't say got to go. I guess you go best player, but you go O-line now at 105.
I don't know. Don't they have enough O-linemen? Steven Jackson. Are you still wearing the Oregon State polo?
Yeah, I am. I met Steven Jackson. Steven Jackson's a cool guy. Steven Jackson's actually very locked in with the Beavs. Like did he play with Jonathan? They were close.
Yeah, it would have been. Maybe he's a little younger.
He's a big Jonathan Smith guy. Why not?
I bet the Rams take someone cool.
Could you just take a tight? I mean, I don't know.
They're going to take a lineman, I bet.
Who's the other guy?
Comedian. I don't know. It just said comedian next to his name. Steven Jackson from Las Vegas?
I didn't know that.
Remember how fucking sweet that guy was in pros? I wonder what his backstory was, how he ended up at Oregon State. I wonder if he had bad grades or something. Look at him. I mean, he looks like should have been like USC. He's a monster. He was huge. Yeah, they took a lineman.
Big Ten guard, baby. Allowed 1 sack in his career.
Probably an average
Logan
athlete.
Bruss. Let's get the spotlight on him. They drive a Minnesota Gopher back. All right.
Nice little touchdown.
Big Ten title game here against Ohio State.
If you were going to play O-line, it'd feel like a badge of honor to be like, where'd you play? Ohio State, Michigan, Wisconsin, Iowa. Like, that's just kind of the – their guys are just feel like they lift, drink a couple beers. Is that Whitworth?
Yeah, it is. What I just saw – he announced a pick yesterday, didn't he?
He did. Whitworth's kids?
He announced a pick yesterday. I bet it's like the high school team he's going to coach at, those kids.
You don't think Whitworth will end up being like an assistant GM for them or something?
Oh, interesting. Like, did you know Bucky Brooks like coaches? I don't know the high school. If you said the high school's name out, like a major LA high school, like Bucky's on their coaching staff.
Yeah, I think he started at a lower one. Did he move up? Because when I went to LA for this iHeart party like 3 years ago, he had just started coaching. I remember talking to him about it. Ran like the wing tee.
All right, Niners are on the clock.
Don Aponte is coming out here to read the card.
What do you think that means? Pick 105, John, the final pick of the round. The third round will conclude. And the 49ers picked a wide receiver. I don't hate it. Danny Gray. like running back to take the heat off Debo, but a receiver to put some pressure on him. No Khalil Shakir. Khalil's gonna have to wait till tomorrow. Who we love Khalil, but Brandon, you called it. Good job, Brandon. 6'2", 199, senior. He's from Dallas. He's a junior college guy. He's from Blinn College. A ton of guys go to Blinn College.
Mississippi?
I'd say that's one. Is it Mississippi? I'd say Blinn College is one of the bigger producers of junior college talent.
Yeah, it feels very famous.
It's in Texas.
Texas.
He only carried the ball 3 times last year. 33 catches for 448. Okay. So was he just did he only play 1 year at SMU? No. If he did, he would have started somewhere else. No, he played 2 years at SMU.
Isn't that coached by Sonny?
Sonny Dykes. This last year, he had 49 catches. Those numbers I read earlier were 2 years old from 2020. 49 catches for 803, 9 touchdowns, 16 yards per catch. Let's find the yak numbers, John.
You know what the number is, guy?
His speed.
4.33.
Which people said at the beginning of this draft, like the speed, you can get speed in the second and third round in this draft.
The Niners do not have a speed guy. Can the guy return?
The Niners just got the guy that the other 3 teams in their division got last year, basically.
Eskridge and Tutu.
Yeah, and Rondale Moore. Yeah, he can't 9 kick returns for 180 yards in 2020. I'm looking for his 2021 stats. Hold on.
They have not had.
Hold on, hot girls want to chat. Get the fuck out of here.
I like a good porn bot.
Good hands.
What's weird is he ran a 4.33, but his vertical was only 34 inches. So usually when you have explosive speed, you jump like 37, 38 inches. So it's a little. Lance Zierlein has him 3rd, 4th round, 2-year starter. Is that what you were reading? The combine breakdown?
No, I was reading something else. So
some of his strengths: long fluid strider in space, gains separation. Weaknesses: below average wingspan, needs additional play strength, disoriented finding the football.
That's fine. You just hand it, just fucking bubble screen.
Focus drops, so not bad hands, but focus drops pop up on in-breaking routes. Dropped would-be touchdown passes in 20 and 21.
So did River Craycraft, and he got on the field.
Inconsistent vertical push on intermediate patterns. So,
did not return the ball last year. Was not a returner last year.
Intriguing upside as a future wide receiver 3. Maybe to put a little pressure on Juwan Jennings. He's a lot
different players, though.
Yeah, he is. Just get some speed. You gotta work with some speed. They just drafted 2 offensive players.
Well, here's the other thing, right? Is like you hope that you can create a downfield threat here, and your quarterback with a big arm can throw it to him. That's pick, true. Potentially. I mean, I haven't.
Well, the Chiefs have been drafting.
Dive into the tape.
All 7 of their wide receivers have ran 4.2s, right? Doesn't that help to just be able to bomb away?
Yeah. Juwan's about to break out this season. I mean, I think he broke out at the end of last year. This is a good point by Jay Mill. Dante Pettis replacement?
Well,
put him in the slot and, get him the ball.
Running back, wide receiver. Score points, What I remember someone asked Chip Kelly on the sideline, like, what do you want us to do? He's like, score fucking points. It's like that's honestly
in the NFL that happened, or that was in college.
Yeah, I think like Jerry Maclin or Riley Cooper or someone. It was like a viral NFL Films video, like his first year. Like, what should we do here? He's like, score fucking points. But he didn't say it. He said it like tongue in cheek with a smile. I think that's. Can you have enough skill guys in this modern day NFL? Just load up.
Let's address this question, right? Lunar Mystic says we run 21 personnel. Why do we draft a receiver? I would argue the 49ers receiver depth is not great. I mean, River Craycraft appeared in a couple of games. You just added Ray McLeod, but after Debo, you think, and Ayuk and Juwan Jennings, and Debo and Ayuk have both missed games over the course of their brief careers. Who do you really have? Who do you have?
Guy, they have been playing. They've always had at minimum one, if not two, random wide receivers dressing on game day over the years, right? It's one thing. Oh, Debo and Ayuk. Well, before we knew who Jennings was, he was kind of random. And they always had a couple other guys like Craycraft, Benjamin.
Travis Benjamin. Now, Travis had a big catch, but Mohamed Sanu, who I saw in that video with George Kittle the other day, where George said loves Jimmy, loves Trey, either one. You know? It's funny, like, Andy Reid drafts this guy, everyone loves it. Shanahan drafts is like, bro, why do you need more receivers?
I know.
We run too tight. Yeah, well, one of the other tight ends can't catch. There's only one tight end on the field that can catch.
Yeah, and let's just take a little pressure off George.
Sherfield in theory, but I mean, did you get we both saw Sherfield in camp last year and loved him. Then the season started. Did you get the feeling during the season that they love Trent Sherfield?
No, he started the first game, and then he kind of dwindled back to his role as special teams player. How much Trent Sherfield did we see as the season went on? Kawakami just tweeted, Lynch and Kyle are set to talk here in minutes.
Should we kill the stream and watch that?
Kill the stream, talk it, and if you want a really quick, super fast, can roll, hands very suspect. So I think the fair question on this guy, speed, size there. Lance said, drop some balls, inconsistent drops, drop touchdowns, something to keep an eye on right at camp. Does Sonny Gray, what's his name? Danny Gray?
Danny Gray.
Sonny Dykes, does he catch the ball? Now, to me, what I wonder, when you draft a guy who has questionable hands, what I think you do is you send your coaches to put him through workouts. Talking like 7 minutes.
All right. All right, everybody. Thanks for hanging with us. Go check out our friends at butcherbox.com/ham, where you get 2 pounds of free beef in the life of your contract. Niners have to draft Britton Covey before Bill does. What just happened? Something happened?
Let's turn on the NBA game. We got Memphis, Minnesota. If Memphis wins, Warriors, Minnesota, noon Sunday, I think.
If Memphis wins.
Yeah, Minnesota is losing by 4 with 2 minutes left.
All right, everybody. We'll be back on Saturday, John?
Yeah, I mean, tomorrow's the day when they do a lot of animals and,
Yeah. Just stick to your devices, people, and we'll let you know.
Did you see the Francesa tweet that was going viral tonight?
Francesa tweeted? No, I didn't know.
He called the draft a freak show. Just announce the damn players.
That's
Well, I think when we were eating dinner, someone came through the rafters. Did you notice that?
No, but I do remember that
Something
David
happened.
Blaine was supposed to do something tonight, I thought.
Yeah, it was a Blaney type thing. It's
like
Vegas.
David Blaine, like impressionist. What channel is this NBA game on?
ESPN. So they didn't even have the draft.
They didn't have the draft?
They must have put it on ABC.
Oh, yeah, ABC. ESPN. Voice remote. All right. Thanks for hanging, everybody.
It'll be interesting to see Kyle's body language right now.
Yeah, we'll be.
Later.